For countless generations, the Florida Everglades has been a kingdom ruled by a formidable predator, one whose presence shaped every ripple, every shadow, and every heartbeat of this vast, watery wilderness. The American crocodile, with its ancient lineage and silent authority, has long been the living emblem of this untamed landscape. Its armored body, perfectly adapted for both stealth and power, glides through the labyrinth of mangroves and sawgrass, a silent sentinel in a world where survival is a daily contest. These magnificent reptiles, with their slender V-shaped snouts and olive-grey scales, were the undisputed apex predators. Their eyes, set high on their heads, watched the world with a wary intelligence, while their powerful tails propelled them effortlessly through the brackish channels. They basked on sun-warmed mudbanks, soaking in the heat that fueled their cold-blooded bodies, and slipped into the water with barely a ripple, vanishing beneath the surface like ghosts. In the stillness of dawn and dusk, their silhouettes haunted the edges of the marsh, a reminder of the wild order that governed these lands. Their presence was more than a spectacle, it was a vital sign of the ecosystem's health. The American crocodile's role as a top predator kept populations of fish, turtles, and even invasive species in check, maintaining the delicate balance that allowed the Everglades to flourish. Every nest, every hidden lair, and every winding trail through the reeds was a testament to their mastery of this environment. The intricate network of waterways, islands, and mudflats was mapped in their memories, passed down through generations in silent, instinctive knowledge. The swamp itself seemed to revolve around them. The American crocodile was the anchor of the Everglades, its presence a stabilizing force in a world of constant change, where droughts, floods, and storms could reshape the land overnight. But then a strange and unsettling phenomenon began to unfold. The air grew thick with a sense of unease, as if the very heart of the swamp was holding its breath. The kings of the swamp began to vanish. Muddy banks that once bore the heavy imprint of their bodies now lay untouched, the familiar trails through the reeds growing faint and overgrown. From their well-established territories and sun-drenched basking spots, the American crocodiles were disappearing without a trace. Nests, once fiercely guarded, stood empty and silent, slowly reclaimed by the encroaching vegetation. It was as if a silent, invisible force was sweeping through the wetlands, driving these mighty creatures from their ancestral homes. The waters, once alive with the quiet confidence of the crocodile, now seemed haunted by their absence. Among the few that remained, a new behavior emerged, one never before seen in these confident predators. They became restless, their movements erratic, their eyes wide with a nervous energy. The American crocodile, once the undisputed master of its realm, now moved with caution. Skittish and wary, they darted into the water at the slightest disturbance, abandoning their usual calm and composure. The natural order of the swamp was unraveling. The silent waterways, once ruled by the steady presence of the crocodile, now echoed with uncertainty. The balance that had endured for centuries was tipping, and the very fabric of the Everglades trembled on the edge of change. Something was hunting the hunters. In the moonlit hours, mysterious ripples disturbed the surface, and shadows moved through the tall grass, unseen but deeply felt. Yet no evidence of a struggle was left behind. The muddy banks remained undisturbed, the water pristine, as if the crocodiles had simply melted away into the night. There were no remains, no scattered bones, no signs of disease, and no obvious environmental changes. The nests stood empty, the wetlands outwardly healthy, but the absence of the crocodile was a silent wound. Slowly, the very fabric of the Everglades ecosystem began to unravel. Vegetation wilted in places, the landscape grew fragmented, and the intricate web of life that depended on the crocodile's presence began to fray. The disappearance of an apex predator sends shockwaves down the entire food chain. Fish populations shifted, some species flourished unchecked, while others dwindled. The health of the mangroves, their roots exposed in the shrinking waterline, began to falter. The question lingered in the air, heavy and unspoken. What could possibly frighten and displace a creature as powerful as the American crocodile? What force could drive the king from its throne? The answer, it was feared, would reveal a new and even more dangerous threat lurking in the shadows of the swamp. Something unknown, something powerful, had come to challenge the ancient order. The alarm was not sounded by voices, but by the silence that followed, the hush that fell over the marshes, the absence of splashes in the night, the empty trails winding through the reeds. The American crocodile was not just any animal, it was the living memory of the Everglades, a creature whose survival was intertwined with the fate of the land itself. Its journey from the brink of extinction to a fragile recovery was written in every scale, every nest, every silent glide through the water. The return of the crocodile had been a symbol of hope, a sign that the wild heart of the Everglades could endure. Now, that hard-won progress was in jeopardy. The numbers, once slowly climbing, began to fall again, the graph of their population tracing a silent descent. The population, already vulnerable, faced an unknown adversary, one that left no tracks, no clues, only emptiness in its wake. The nests grew cold, the waterways silent, and the king's domain shrank with every passing day. The quiet waterways of the Everglades, once a sanctuary, had become a zone of fear. The search for answers was not a race against time, but a race against the unknown, a desperate struggle to understand what darkness had come to claim the vanishing kings of the swamp. In the tangled heart of the Everglades, a silent drama was unfolding. The disappearance of the American crocodile sent ripples through the ecosystem, unsettling the delicate balance of predator and prey. The search for the cause led to a familiar shadow slithering through the sawgrass, a notorious invader whose presence had already rewritten the rules of survival in these wetlands. The Burmese python, a colossal constrictor from the lush forests and swamps of Southeast Asia, had found a new kingdom in Florida. Its patterned scales blended seamlessly with the dappled light, making it nearly invisible as it moved with predatory patience. These snakes, once confined to glass enclosures, had slipped into the wild, their presence now woven into the very fabric of the Everglades. With no natural predators to keep them in check, they multiplied, their numbers swelling with each passing season. The impact was devastating. Once bustling trails grew quiet and the chorus of native mammals, raccoons, opossums, bobcats, faded into silence. Empty nests and burrows told the story of a food web torn apart, the python's appetite leaving little room for competition. With bodies stretching over 20 feet and muscles coiled with lethal strength, these pythons could overpower prey as formidable as deer and even alligators. Their jaws, unhinging with eerie precision, allowed them to swallow animals whole, leaving only a bulge in the undergrowth as evidence. In the absence of rivals, the python seemed the most likely suspect in the vanishing of the crocodiles. Its reputation as a top-tier predator was well earned, and its methods left little doubt about its capabilities. A notorious incident from 2005 seemed to confirm these suspicions, casting a long shadow over the Everglades. In a remote corner of the swamp, the body of a 13-foot Burmese python was found, its skin torn and belly grotesquely ruptured. Within the python's torn abdomen lay the remains of a 6-foot American alligator, its body half-digested, a testament to the epic struggle that had taken place. This grisly tableau revealed a violent turf war, a clash of titans between the ancient reptiles of Florida and their new, relentless adversary. It was easy to imagine these powerful snakes turning their attention to the largest native reptiles, challenging even the formidable crocodiles for dominance. Perhaps the pythons were not only competing for food, but actively hunting crocodiles, driving them from their territories with brute force and primal fear. The evidence, however, demanded a closer look. The swamp held its secrets tightly, and only the remains of the fallen could offer clues. Each carcass was a puzzle, its bones and flesh holding the story of its final moments. The search was for unmistakable signs, a python's calling card. A python's kill is unmistakable. Bones snapped under crushing coils, deep bruising from suffocation, the telltale marks of a constrictor's deadly embrace. Yet, as the evidence was gathered and scrutinized, the story grew murky. The expected signs were missing, the clues refusing to fit the narrative. The few crocodile carcasses that surfaced bore no marks of constriction, no broken bones, no internal hemorrhaging, no evidence of a python's lethal grip. The initial certainty began to unravel, the obvious answer slipping away like mist over the water. The Burmese python, though a formidable force, was not the architect of the crocodile's disappearance. The absence of evidence forced the search for answers down a new, uncharted path. The python theory, so compelling at first, was nothing more than a mirage, a misleading trail in the endless maze of the Everglades. The true threat was something else, something that moved with a different purpose, a different hunger. The mystery only deepened, the answer still lurking in the shadows. If not the python, then what other predator could possibly challenge the ancient rulers of these swamps? What force could drive the crocodile from its throne? The answer, when it came, would shake the very foundations of the Everglades, revealing a threat more shocking and consequential than any could have foreseen. Beneath the surface, a new monster was rising, one that had mastered the art of concealment, biding its time as it claimed the swamp for its own. The true invader had yet to reveal itself, its presence felt only in the growing silence and the vanishing shadows of the crocodile. The breakthrough emerged in the heart of Miami, far from the tangled wilds where the native crocodiles had once thrived. In the labyrinth of city canals, where the water glimmers with the reflection of neon lights and the hum of distant traffic, a new presence glided silently beneath the surface. In a narrow canal, a young crocodile appeared, its movements fluid, its eyes unblinking, surveying the unfamiliar world of concrete and steel. Unlike the secretive natives, this creature did not melt away at the first sign of disturbance. Instead, it lingered, bold and unyielding, its posture radiating a confidence that bordered on defiance. The crocodile's gaze was unwavering, its body language a silent challenge to any who might approach, its snout, broader than the slender jaws of the American crocodile, hinted at a lineage foreign to these waters. The skin, a deep olive black, shimmered with a uniform darkness, lacking the patchwork of tan and grey that camouflaged its native cousins. Every detail of this animal spoke of a different origin. Its snout was not only broader, but its teeth seemed to interlock with a predatory precision, and its scales formed a seamless armor, glistening in the filtered sunlight that danced across the canal's surface. The creature moved with a predatory grace, stalking the shallows as if it had always belonged. Yet its presence was an enigma, a shadow from another world, behaving with an instinctive certainty that set it apart from the wary, reclusive natives. This was not a familiar animal acting out of place. This was a stranger, perfectly at home in its own skin, adapting with uncanny speed to the rhythms of a new environment. Its instincts were sharp, its reactions swift, and its confidence unshakable. In the years that followed, more of these formidable crocodiles emerged from the shadows. Each one bore the same hallmarks, the broad snout, the dark, uniform scales, and an aggression that seemed to simmer just beneath the surface. These newcomers carved out territories on the fringes of the city, lurking in the murky waters where the wild met the urban sprawl. Their presence was a silent ripple, spreading outward into the vast, tangled wilderness of the Everglades, a realm where secrets could remain hidden for years. The native crocodiles, once rulers of these waterways, now found themselves face to face with a rival unlike any they had known. The newcomers were relentless, their aggression untempered, their dominance clear in every encounter. These invaders grew with astonishing speed, outpacing their native counterparts by nearly a third. Their bodies became muscular and powerful, their jaws capable of exerting crushing force, their presence a constant threat to any who dared challenge them. The puzzle of the vanishing natives began to resolve itself. The flight of the American crocodiles was not mere fear, it was a calculated retreat in the face of a superior force. The newcomers claimed the best basking spots, the richest hunting grounds, and the deepest pools. The struggle was not just for territory or food, it was a battle for survival, waged in the silent, predatory language of dominance and submission. The invaders drove the natives from their ancestral homes, sometimes with violence, sometimes with the mere threat of their overwhelming presence. In the hidden corners of the city and the wild, a new order was taking shape, one defined by the relentless advance of a stranger, whose origins and intentions remained shrouded in mystery, but whose impact was written in every ripple, every shadow, and every silent retreat of the native crocodiles. To truly grasp the magnitude of Florida's unfolding crocodile mystery, we must first delve into the remarkable contrasts between the Native American crocodile and the formidable Nile crocodile invader. These two ancient reptiles, though similar in silhouette, are worlds apart in their behavior, biology, and ecological impact. The American crocodile, Crocodilus acutus, is a creature of subtlety and caution. In the quiet backwaters and sun-dappled estuaries of Florida, it glides silently beneath the surface, its pale olive scales blending seamlessly with the shifting light and shadow of the mangroves. Its most distinctive feature is a slender, V-shaped snout, a marvel of evolutionary design. This narrow jaw is perfectly suited for snatching quicksilver fish from the water, allowing the American crocodile to thrive as a specialist hunter in its aquatic domain. Despite their impressive size, some reaching up to 15 feet, these crocodiles are reclusive by nature. They slip away at the slightest disturbance, vanishing into the tangled roots and murky depths, leaving only ripples behind. In the wild, the American crocodile is a model of restraint. Its days are spent basking on sun-warmed banks, its nights patrolling the shallows for fish and crustaceans. It is a sentinel of the wetlands, a quiet presence that shapes the ecosystem without dominating it. As a protected species, the American crocodile is a symbol of fragile balance, a living relic whose survival depends on the health of its watery world. In stark contrast, the Nile crocodile, Crocodilus niloticus, is a force of nature. Its arrival in Florida's waterways signals a dramatic shift, for this is a reptile forged in the crucible of Africa's wildest rivers. The Nile crocodile is a creature of raw power and relentless drive. Its broad, muscular body propels it through the water with astonishing speed, while its massive jaws open in a display of dominance and strength. Native to the rivers and lakes of sub-Saharan Africa, the Nile crocodile is an apex predator, feared by all who share its domain. It lies in wait beneath the surface, a living shadow, before erupting in a burst of violence to seize its prey. Its broad, U-shaped snout is a weapon of destruction, designed to clamp down on large mammals with bone-crushing force. Unlike the American crocodile's delicate jaws, the Niles are built for overpowering the most formidable of adversaries. The Nile crocodile's temperament is equally formidable. It is aggressive, territorial, and unyielding, a creature that dominates its environment through sheer will and physical superiority. In its native range, the Nile crocodile is a relentless hunter, responsible for countless dramatic encounters at the water's edge. Its reputation as a top predator is well earned, and its presence is a constant reminder of nature's unforgiving side. These crocodiles view any large animal that approaches the water as potential prey. Their patience is legendary. They can remain motionless for hours, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. The arrival of such a predator in Florida's tranquil waterways marks a profound transformation. The silent canals and peaceful rivers now conceal a new and unpredictable threat, hidden just beneath the surface. The differences between these two species are not merely behavioral, they are etched into their very forms. The American crocodile's slender build contrasts sharply with the Nile's hulking mass and robust skull. While a large American crocodile may reach an impressive 15 feet, the Nile crocodile can surpass 18 feet and weigh over a ton. This immense size grants it dominance wherever it roams. The Nile crocodile's bite is legendary, one of the most powerful in the animal kingdom. With jaws capable of shattering bone, it can subdue prey that would be impossible for other predators to tackle. In Florida, the Nile crocodile's rapid growth rate gives it a further edge. Juveniles quickly outpace their American counterparts, soon reaching sizes that allow them to dominate any territory they claim. This combination of size, strength, and aggression makes the Nile crocodile an unrivaled competitor. In any contest for resources or territory, it is the undisputed victor. The American crocodile, faced with such overwhelming force, retreats from direct confrontation, ceding ground to the invader. Adaptability is another of the Nile crocodile's formidable traits. It can flourish in a variety of environments, from muddy rivers to crystal-clear lakes, always finding a way to survive and thrive. Whether in the slow-moving waters of a swamp, the tidal surge of an estuary, or the open expanse of a lake, the Nile crocodile is at home. Its resilience allows it to exploit every corner of its new territory. Unlike the American crocodile, which is limited by its need for warmth, the Nile crocodile can endure cooler temperatures. This gives it access to regions and seasons that would be inhospitable to its native cousin. If the Nile crocodile were to establish a foothold, its range could expand far beyond the Everglades, infiltrating new habitats and altering the balance of entire ecosystems. The potential for northward expansion is real, threatening the delicate web of life across Florida's diverse landscapes. The arrival of the Nile crocodile is not just a local anomaly, it is a challenge to the entire state's natural order, a test of resilience for every creature that calls Florida home. In the tangled wilderness of Florida's wetlands, a silent drama was unfolding. The evidence was everywhere, massive tracks pressed into the mud, the glint of unfamiliar eyes at dusk, and the subtle shift in the balance of power among the ancient reptiles that ruled these waters. The invader was cunning, blending seamlessly into the landscape, its presence betrayed only by the faintest of clues. At first glance, the newcomer could be mistaken for a native. The young especially bore a striking resemblance to their American cousins, their scales patterned in cryptic designs that mirrored the dappled sunlight filtering through the cypress trees. But nature is a master of disguise, and appearances can be deceiving. The truth, as it so often does, lay hidden deep within, encoded in the very building blocks of life. The answer to the mystery was written in the twisting, spiraling strands of DNA, a molecular script that could not lie. Within each cell, the genetic code held the story of the crocodile's origins, its ancestors, its journey, and its true identity. The sequence of nucleotides, unique as a fingerprint, would reveal whether this was a native son or a foreign conqueror. The results were irrefutable. The DNA matched, letter for letter, the code of Crocodilus niloticus, the Nile crocodile, a legendary predator from the rivers and lakes of Africa. There was no room for doubt, no possibility of error. The invader was not a hybrid nor a mutant born of the Florida swamps. It was a purebred Nile crocodile, an apex predator from a distant continent. The revelation sent shockwaves through the ecosystem. The arrival of such a formidable hunter threatened to upend the delicate balance that had existed for millennia. The native crocodiles, once unchallenged rulers of their domain, now faced a rival whose power and aggression were legendary. The DNA revealed another secret. The genetic makeup of the newcomers was nearly identical, suggesting a single origin, a handful of individuals, perhaps siblings, who had crossed the ocean and found sanctuary in the wilds of Florida, From this tiny founding group, a new dynasty was rising. The invasion had gone undetected for years. In secret, the Nile crocodiles had survived, thrived, and bred, their numbers growing with each passing season. A new generation was born in the wild, their instincts honed for survival in this unfamiliar land. The confirmation was chilling. The puzzle pieces fell into place: the vanishing native crocodiles, the sudden aggression, the mysterious new predator. The Everglades had become the stage for a biological invasion of the highest order. The native kings of the swamp were being pushed aside, their reign challenged by a powerful usurper from across the sea. The ecosystem trembled on the brink of transformation. The DNA results marked the turning point. The mystery was solved, but a new crisis had begun. The challenge was no longer to identify the intruder, but to confront a predator perfectly adapted for conquest before it claimed the wild heart of Florida as its own. With the identity of the invader now clear, the focus shifts to the mysterious journey that brought African crocodiles to the sun-drenched wetlands of Florida. The answer, as the evidence reveals, is woven into the intricate web of the exotic pet trade, a global network that stretches across continents and oceans, connecting distant habitats through the movement of rare and remarkable creatures. Within this vast trade, reptiles are among the most coveted treasures. Glass terrariums line the walls of private collections, each one a miniature world containing vibrant scales, flickering tongues, and ancient eyes. The allure of the unusual and the dangerous draws attention to the most formidable predators, whose presence behind glass is both a status symbol and a source of fascination. In Florida, the subtropical climate creates an environment where these creatures can thrive far from their native lands. The state's lush backyards, dotted with ponds and dense foliage, offer a seamless transition from captivity to the wild. Here the boundaries between pet and invader blur, and the landscape becomes a stage for unexpected encounters. The Nile crocodile, with its armored hide and ancient lineage, is a creature of legend. Its gaze is unblinking, its movements deliberate and powerful. In captivity, it is a living relic, a reminder of prehistoric rivers and sun-baked African banks. But in Florida, it becomes something else entirely, a wild force, unbound and unpredictable. The genetic evidence tells a story of close kinship among the captured crocodiles, suggesting a single origin. The Atlantic Ocean, vast and unforgiving, stands as a natural barrier that no crocodile could cross unaided. Instead, the journey begins in a confined space, a crate, a tank, a hidden enclosure, where hatchlings grow beneath artificial lights far from the rivers of their ancestors. The transition from captivity to freedom is sudden. A storm rages, winds howl, and enclosures are battered by rain and debris. Fences buckle, locks fail, and the wild calls. The young crocodiles slip through gaps, their bodies low and silent, drawn by the scent of water and the promise of open space. In the aftermath, the marshes and canals of Florida become new hunting grounds. The crocodiles move with stealth, their bodies perfectly adapted for ambush. Native wildlife, unaccustomed to such a predator, is caught off guard. The balance of the ecosystem shifts, and the presence of these ancient reptiles sends ripples through the food web. The wilds of Florida, already home to a tapestry of invasive species, now harbor a new apex predator. Burmese pythons coil in the undergrowth, green iguanas bask on sun-warmed rocks, and the Nile crocodile glides through the water, its eyes just above the surface, watching and waiting. The story of the Nile crocodile's arrival is a tale of opportunity and escape. Hatchlings once confined now explore a world of endless possibilities. Each step they take is a reminder of the delicate balance between containment and chaos. The laws that exist to prevent such invasions are strict, but the wild is indifferent to regulations. Once the boundaries are breached, the consequences unfold in silence beneath the surface of murky waters and in the shadows of tangled roots. The escape of these crocodiles is not a singular event, but part of a larger pattern. Storms, floods, and the relentless growth of the animals themselves all conspire to turn captivity into freedom. In the wild, the crocodiles find new rivers to patrol, new prey to stalk. Their presence is felt in the sudden silence of a pond, the wary movements of native birds, and the shifting patterns of fish beneath the surface. The landscape itself becomes a witness to this unfolding drama. Marsh grasses bend beneath heavy bodies, muddy banks bear the imprint of clawed feet, and the water's edge is marked by the slow, deliberate slide of a predator returning to its element. Floodwaters surge, carrying with them the promise of escape. Enclosures, once secure, are no match for the power of nature. The crocodiles seize their chance, vanishing into the labyrinth of waterways that crisscross the state. The wild absorbs these newcomers, and the cycle begins anew. Each crocodile that disappears into the marsh is a testament to the unpredictable consequences of introducing the extraordinary into the ordinary. The Nile crocodile, once a distant legend, now glides through Florida's waterways, a living shadow among the reeds. Its presence is a silent challenge to the ecosystem, a test of resilience for every creature that shares its domain. This is not an isolated incident, but part of a broader pattern that has transformed Florida's wild places. Each new arrival, from python to iguana to crocodile, leaves a mark on the land and its inhabitants. The Everglades echo with the silent movements of invasive predators, while city streets and backyards become unexpected habitats for creatures from distant continents. Among them, the Nile crocodile stands as the most formidable, a top-tier predator whose arrival signals a new era of ecological uncertainty. The unchecked spread of these invaders reveals the fragility of boundaries and the far-reaching impact of a single breach. The landscape bears the scars of these encounters: overgrown enclosures, empty tanks, and wild places, forever changed by the presence of the extraordinary. The Nile crocodile's journey from distant riverbanks to Florida's marshes is a powerful reminder of the unpredictable consequences that arise when the wild is brought into new worlds and the delicate balance of nature is forever altered. Deep within the heart of the Everglades, a silent crisis unfolds beneath the morning mist. The arrival and establishment of a breeding population of Nile crocodiles has set in motion a chain of events that threatens to unravel the intricate tapestry of life woven over millennia in these wetlands. The Everglades, a realm of shimmering sawgrass, winding waterways and hidden pools, is a place where every creature, from the smallest insect to the largest reptile, plays a vital role in maintaining the balance of this unique ecosystem. At the center of this unfolding drama is the Native American crocodile, a species that has long called these marshes home. With their pale olive-green scales and gentle, watchful eyes, these crocodiles have adapted to the Everglades' brackish waters, carving out territories along the sun-dappled banks and nesting in the safety of secluded high ground. But now the invaders have arrived. Nile crocodiles, with their massive jaws and muscular frames, glide through the water with a confidence born of dominance. They are not merely new arrivals, they are conquerors, imposing their will on a landscape unprepared for their presence. Towering over their American cousins, the Nile crocodiles are not only larger and stronger, but also far more aggressive. They seize the best basking spots, claim the richest hunting grounds, and dominate the tangled banks where food is plentiful. The American crocodiles, once rulers of their domain, now find themselves outmatched at every turn. The native crocodiles, sensing the overwhelming force of their new rivals, are driven to flee. Their once familiar haunts become battlegrounds, and the instinct to survive sends them slipping away into the shadows, abandoning the territories that once sustained them. Forced into marginal, less hospitable corners of the wetlands, the American crocodiles struggle to adapt. Here, the water is shallower, the cover sparser, and the prey more elusive. Stress etches itself into every movement, and the prospects for successful nesting and rearing of young grow dim. Yet this displacement is only the beginning of the turmoil. The Nile crocodiles, with their insatiable appetites and predatory instincts, do not merely compete for space, they actively hunt. Their powerful jaws and lightning-fast reflexes make them formidable hunters, and their presence introduces a new, relentless threat to the native crocodiles. In the murky waters, an adult Nile crocodile can easily overpower a juvenile, or even a full-grown American crocodile. The struggle is swift and brutal, leaving little chance for escape. This direct predation, layered atop the fierce competition for resources, accelerates the decline of the native population. Each loss ripples through the ecosystem, weakening the fabric of life that holds the Everglades together. The American crocodile's journey from the edge of extinction was a tale of resilience and recovery. Their numbers, once perilously low, had begun to climb, and the marshes echoed once more with the splash of their tails and the rustle of their nests. Now that hard-won progress teeters on the brink of reversal. The population, already fragile, faces the spectre of local extinction. The relentless pressure from a superior predator leaves little room for hope. But the consequences of this invasion reach far beyond the fate of a single species. The Everglades is a living web, each strand connected to countless others. When one thread is pulled, the entire structure trembles. As apex predators, Nile crocodiles wield immense influence. Their arrival at the top of the food chain sends shockwaves through every level below. Unlike their American counterparts, whose diets are relatively specialized, Nile crocodiles are opportunistic feeders. Their menu is vast, encompassing fish, birds, mammals, and even other reptiles. With the strength to subdue large prey, they can bring down deer that wander too close to the water, snatch wading birds from the shallows, and even threaten the young of other large animals. No creature that enters their domain is truly safe. This new, intense, predatory force sends shockwaves through the populations of native species. As prey numbers dwindle, the balance that once defined the Everglades begins to unravel, setting off a cascade of ecological consequences. The ancient dance of predator and prey, refined over thousands of years, is thrown into chaos. The food web, once resilient and self-sustaining, now teeters on the edge of collapse, its intricate connections fraying with each passing season. The very essence of the swamp, the chorus of frogs at dusk, the silent glide of turtles, the flash of herons in flight, stands at risk. The Everglades, a sanctuary for countless forms of life, faces an uncertain future. The loss of native crocodiles from their nesting grounds disrupts more than just their own life cycles. These nests, carefully constructed on high ground, serve as vital refuges for a host of other creatures seeking safety from rising waters. The mounds they build become islands in the flood, and their movements through the marshes carve channels and pools that sustain life during the harshest dry spells. Their absence leaves the landscape less hospitable, less resilient. By displacing these ecosystem engineers, the Nile crocodiles do more than replace one species with another. They threaten the very architecture of the Everglades, altering the physical and biological processes that have shaped this land for ages. The Everglades, already weakened by countless pressures, now faces a siege from within. The arrival of the Nile crocodile is not just a new chapter in the story of these wetlands. It is a turning point, one that will determine the fate of an entire world hidden beneath the cypress and sawgrass. In the heart of the Florida Everglades, a silent crisis unfolds beneath the cover of darkness. The confirmation of a breeding population of Nile crocodiles has set the ancient wilderness on edge, as the delicate balance of this ecosystem faces an unprecedented threat. Deep within the tangled mangroves and endless sawgrass, the Nile crocodile, an apex predator from another continent, has found a foothold. Its presence is felt in the subtle shifts of the marsh, the sudden silence of frogs, the wary movements of native birds, the absence of smaller reptiles along the banks. The Everglades, a vast expanse of more than 1.5 million acres, is a labyrinth of life and danger. Here, every creature is attuned to the faintest disturbance, and the arrival of a new predator sends ripples through the food web. The native inhabitants, alligators, turtles, wading birds, now share their home with a formidable rival. The Nile crocodile, larger and more aggressive than most native species, competes for territory and prey, its hunting prowess honed by millennia in Africa's wild rivers. Each night, the marsh becomes a battleground. The crocodiles move with stealth and purpose, their powerful tails propelling them through narrow channels, their senses alert to the faintest vibration. The native creatures, once rulers of these waters, must adapt or vanish. The challenge of finding these invaders in such an immense and intricate wilderness is staggering. The crocodiles blend seamlessly with their surroundings, their mottled hides camouflaged against mud and reeds, their movements nearly invisible in the labyrinth of waterways. The Everglades itself seems to conspire in their favor, offering endless places to hide and hunt. The search for these elusive predators is like seeking a single ripple in a sea of grass. The consequences of unchecked invasion are dire. If even a single breeding pair remains, the population could explode, overwhelming the fragile balance of the Everglades and pushing native species to the brink. The ecosystem, shaped by centuries of delicate interactions, faces a future where the Nile crocodile reigns supreme, its dominance reshaping the landscape and the lives of every creature within it. The Everglades' beauty and diversity are at stake. The silent struggle between invader and native, predator and prey, will determine the fate of this unique wilderness. In this race against time, the outcome remains uncertain. The Everglades holds its breath, waiting to see if its ancient rhythms will endure, or if a new order will take hold beneath the shadow of the Nile crocodile. The saga of the Nile crocodile in Florida is more than just a tale of a formidable reptile finding itself in unfamiliar territory. It is a story written in the winding waterways and shadowed cypress groves of the Everglades, where every ripple and rustle tells of ancient balances and sudden disruptions. The arrival of this apex predator is a reflection of the delicate equilibrium that governs life in these wetlands, and how easily that balance can be tipped. The invasion of the Nile crocodile did not occur in isolation. The Everglades, a vast mosaic of sawgrass marshes, slow-moving rivers and tangled mangrove forests, is a living tapestry where every species, from the smallest insect to the largest alligator, plays a role in maintaining harmony. For generations, the Everglades has endured cycles of abundance and scarcity, its resilience tested by droughts, storms, and the relentless push and pull of its own wild inhabitants. But in recent decades, the land has grown weary, its natural defenses weakened. The intricate web of sloughs and marshes has been interrupted by deep, straight canals, redirecting the lifeblood of the wetlands and leaving some areas parched while others drown beneath unnatural floods. Once, dense mangrove forests lined the coasts, their tangled roots sheltering countless creatures and buffering the land from storms. Now, in many places, only stumps and bare mudflats remain, the intricate latticework of roots replaced by emptiness. The waters, once clear and teeming with life, now carry the burden of silt and chemicals. Fish float lifeless in stagnant pools, and the chorus of frogs grows quieter with each passing season. In this weakened state, the Everglades has become a land of opportunity for outsiders. The Nile crocodile, with its powerful jaws and ancient instincts, found not just a new home, but a land where the old guardians were faltering. In a thriving, robust ecosystem, every niche is filled, every predator and prey locked in a dance of survival. Invaders find little room to gain a foothold, their advances checked by the strength of the native community. But in the Everglades, where the land is fragmented and the waters tainted, the natural defenses have been breached. The system's immune response is sluggish, its guardians scattered. The American crocodile, once the undisputed ruler of these brackish backwaters, now faces a relentless challenger. Its numbers dwindle, its territory shrinks, and the ancient rituals of nesting and hunting are disrupted by the presence of a new rival. The Nile crocodile, sensing opportunity, slips silently through the reeds. It is not just the warmth of the sun or the abundance of prey that draws it here, but the absence of resistance. A kingdom left vulnerable, the scars upon the land are deep, and the arrival of this new predator is but one symptom of a much larger wound, one that festers beneath the surface. The Everglades itself becomes a living lesson, its every pool and hammock a testament to the consequences of imbalance. The presence of the Nile crocodile is a stark reminder of the dangers that arise when boundaries are crossed and wild creatures are transported far from their native realms. A fleeting fascination with the exotic can unleash consequences that echo for generations as new predators reshape the land and the old order crumbles. The story of the Everglades is not isolated. Across the globe, rivers, forests, and grasslands are bound together in a web of life, each thread tugging at the next. The fate of one wetland can ripple outward, touching distant shores and faraway forests. The Everglades whispers a truth as old as the cypress trees. All creatures are connected, and the health of one is the health of all. The land calls for guardianship, for a spirit of care and respect that honors the ancient cycles of water, earth, and life. The struggle to restore balance in these wetlands is a struggle to heal the land itself, to mend the broken threads of the tapestry and allow the wild chorus to rise once more. True restoration demands more than the removal of a single invader. It calls for the slow, patient work of renewal, letting the waters flow as they once did, allowing the marshes to breathe and the forests to regrow. The cleansing of the waters, the return of the natural rhythms, and the protection of the last wild refugees are the keys to the Everglades' survival. The land itself remembers every scar and every healing touch. It asks for vigilance, for lessons learned, and for the wisdom to act before the next crisis arrives. In the still, dark waters of the swamp, the reflection is not just of the sky above, but of the world as it could be, resilient, wild, and whole. The Everglades stands as a question and a promise. Will the wild heart of this land endure, and will its treasures remain for the generations yet to come? Beneath the ghostly veil of early morning mist, the Everglades stirs to a new order. In the hush before sunrise, the waterways mirror the clouds and the world seems untouched. Yet, beneath this tranquil surface, the Nile crocodile moves with purpose. Its armored tail carves a path through the water hyacinths, silent as a shadow. Each ripple is a mark of quiet dominion, a sign that the ancient reptile now claims these wild corridors as its own. In the cool darkness, the native creatures sense the shift in power. An egret, poised on one leg, freezes as a pair of amber eyes break the surface. The air is tense, a silent negotiation between predator and prey. The Nile crocodile waits, patient and still, blending into the tapestry of roots and reeds. It is not hunger that drives this vigil, but the certainty of belonging, a new king in a land of uncertainty. Further along the bank, a juvenile alligator slips into the water, unaware of the presence lurking nearby. The two reptiles, both relics of a distant past, now share the same hunting grounds. Where once the American crocodile moved unchallenged, now the air thrums with the electric possibility of confrontation. Boundaries are tested, territories redrawn with every stealthy approach and every silent retreat. The Nile crocodile explores its new domain with a relentless, methodical curiosity. It noses through floating mats of duckweed, investigates the scents left behind by otters and raccoons. No creature escapes its notice. Even the silver flash of a mullet leaping in the shallows draws a cold, calculating gaze. The ecosystem, once stable, now must adapt to this formidable presence. Fish schools tighten, birds nest higher, and the night chorus of frogs falters, instinctively wary of the new apex predator. The crocodile's reign is not marked by chaos, but by a subtle rewriting of the rules. The rhythm of life in the swamp bends to accommodate the silent hunter. Prey patterns shift. Old trails are abandoned. A ripple here, a splash there, small changes that echo through the food web. The Everglades, already wounded, absorbs this new influence with quiet resilience, but the balance tips with every passing day. As the sun climbs above the cypress canopy, the Nile crocodile basks on a half-submerged log, its scales glinting gold in the morning light. It is a creature out of place, yet perfectly at home. The swamp is silent, save for the distant call of a heron. Here, in this moment, the Nile crocodile is not an invader, but a ruler, enigmatic, unstoppable, and wholly at ease in the wild heart of Florida. The mystery persists, woven into the very fabric of the wetlands. The Nile crocodile, a living question, glides on, leaving only the faintest trace, a promise that the story is far from over, and the silent reign has only just begun. Beneath the emerald canopy, the Everglades pulses with a new and subtle tension. As weeks turn to months, the presence of the Nile crocodile becomes an invisible hand, reshaping the ancient choreography of life along the water's edge. Fish that once darted boldly through the shallows now huddle in tighter schools, their movements growing wary and unpredictable. The hunting patterns of wading birds shift as they sense the change below the surface. Great blue herons, once frequent visitors to open ponds, now stalk the margins with increased caution, their sharp eyes scanning for more than just a glimmer of scales. In the tangled undergrowth, small mammals adjust their routines. Otters, with their playful energy, choose new routes through the reeds, avoiding the quiet pools favored by the lurking reptile. Even the chorus frogs, whose nightly symphony once filled the air, fall silent when the water stirs with a ripple that does not belong. The ripple effect continues upward through the food web. The absence of certain fish species in familiar places causes a cascade, affecting the birds and mammals that depend on them. Dragonfly larvae, once abundant near the surface, now retreat deeper as predation increases. The balance, once measured and predictable, tips ever so slightly with each passing day. Deep in the marsh, the chemical traces left behind by the crocodile mingle with the scents of native predators. These invisible messages, deciphered by sensitive tongues and nostrils, radiate warning and uncertainty through the wetland's hidden highways. The ecosystem, intricate and interdependent, rewrites its rules in real time. Meanwhile, the silent observers of nature, unseen but ever present, collect the evidence. Claw marks on muddy banks, the arrangement of bones along a sandbar, and the shifting population numbers of prey species all tell a story of adaptation and disruption. The data accumulates, painting a portrait of an ecosystem in flux. As the sun sets and the shadows lengthen, the Everglades holds its breath. The Nile crocodile, a silent architect of change, glides through the darkening waters, leaving behind more than footprints. It leaves echoes, echoes that will shape the future of the swamp, reverberating through every reed, ripple, and wing beat. The investigation continues, not by human hand, but by the unceasing rhythms of nature itself. Years pass, and the Everglades becomes a living chronicle of adaptation. Where once a single invasive presence sent ripples of uncertainty, now the ecosystem settles into a new rhythm, one shaped by resilience, ingenuity, and change. The Nile crocodile, no longer an anomaly, has carved out its own territory among the cypress knees and mangrove roots. Native alligators, forced to adapt, find refuge in the shallows, their hunting grounds carefully chosen to avoid confrontation. Some fish species, decimated in the first waves of predation, have rebounded by shifting their breeding grounds or altering their spawning seasons. The survivors are those who learn the language of caution, passing on new instincts with each generation. Meanwhile, the food web flexes and reforms. Birds once dependent on vanished prey turn to alternative sources, snails, crustaceans, or the insects that flourish in the wake of shifting water levels. Small mammals, too, evolve new habits. Some become nocturnal, others migrate to higher ground, and a few, unable to adapt, quietly fade from the tapestry. The dragonflies, resilient as ever, reclaim the water's edge in seasons of abundance, their numbers rising and falling in silent negotiation with the predators above and below. Yet, amidst this natural rebalancing, solutions emerge, not from outside intervention, but from the ecosystem's own logic. Plant life thickens along certain banks, providing shelter for the vulnerable and spawning grounds for the adaptable. Algae blooms, once kept in check, occasionally flare, forcing predators and prey alike to adjust their patterns or risk starvation. The web tightens, then loosens, always seeking a fragile equilibrium. The Everglades, transformed yet enduring, continues its ancient conversation. Each sunrise brings new strategies, each sunset new survivors. The scars of invasion remain, etched into the bones of the land and the memories of its creatures. But life, relentless and resourceful, persists. The future of the swamp is not a return to what was, but an evolution toward what must be, a balance rewritten, line by line, in the wild script of survival. Beneath the emerald canopy and across the sun-speckled waters, a quiet alliance forms among the Everglades' native inhabitants. Here, adaptation is more than survival. It is a silent pact, written in the movements and choices of every creature that calls the swamp home. River otters, once playful wanderers, now serve as vigilant scouts along the winding channels. Their acute senses detect subtle shifts, a new scent in the water, a ripple that doesn't belong. With each change, they adjust their routes, teaching their young the difference between familiar danger and the unknown. Turtles bask longer on tangled logs, their shells darkened by the algae blooms that come and go with the seasons. Their ancient patience is an anchor, stabilizing the food chain as they graze steadily on aquatic plants, preventing overgrowth and keeping the waterways open. Amidst the reeds, herons and egrets stand motionless, their eyes reflecting the shifting tides of fortune. Their diets change with the seasons. Today, a surge in snails, tomorrow, a rare fish. Each choice sends ripples through the ecosystem, guiding the abundance or scarcity of life in the shallows. Even the insects, the tireless mosquitoes, the luminous fireflies, the dragonflies that dart in iridescent flashes, respond to the new rhythms of the swamp. Their numbers rise and fall, orchestrated by the dance of predators and prey, rainfall and drought. Beneath the surface, the alligator gar and bowfin, ancient fish with armored scales, endure where others cannot. Their resilience becomes a foundation for the food web, supporting birds, reptiles, and mammals alike. The cypress trees, with roots entwined in mud and water, absorb the nutrients left behind by vanished species, filtering the water and offering shelter to the smallest of survivors. And when the summer storms roll in, flooding the lowlands and turning rivers into sprawling lakes, it is the native flora that cushions the blow. Sawgrass meadows trap sediment, slowing erosion. Water lilies rise with the floods, shading the shallows and cooling the water for the creatures below. Through drought and deluge, invasion and adaptation, the Everglades guardians persist, not through dominance, but through 1,000 acts of resilience. Each shift in behavior, each subtle change in diet or habitat weaves a new layer into the tapestry of life. Here the future is not dictated by the strongest, but by those most attuned to change. In this living landscape, Every species is both sentinel and survivor, shaping a world where balance is never static, but always in motion. A testament to the enduring power of nature's guardians within. As dawn breaks over the Everglades, the horizon shimmers with possibility. In the hush of first light, the swamp becomes a living laboratory. Each ripple, each call, each silent movement a clue for those who seek to understand and restore its intricate web. Beneath the water's surface, discrete sensors track the subtle changes in temperature and current. These silent sentinels gather data day and night, revealing patterns in the movements of fish, the stirring of aquatic plants, and the invisible tides of nutrients. Overhead, drones glide on whispering wings, mapping the shifting tapestry of sawgrass, cypress, and open water. Their digital eyes record the pulse of seasonal floods, the scars of drought, and the slow but steady return of native habitats. Hidden among the reeds, tiny transmitters carried by turtles, otters, and even elusive snakes send signals into the ether. These beacons draw the unseen lines of migration and territory, showing how ancient instincts adapt to new challenges. The data weaves a living portrait, one that grows richer with every season, every storm, every birth and loss. Across the marsh, experimental islands of hope flourish. Here, native plants are reintroduced in carefully chosen clusters, their roots binding the soil and their leaves shading the shallows. The return of these pioneers attracts dragonflies, frogs, and songbirds, each a sign that the balance may yet be restored. In the stillness of remote ponds, rare fish eggs are nestled in protective enclosures, shielded from invasive predators until they are strong enough to join the wild currents. The air hums with the quiet promise of restoration. Bioacoustic monitors capture the chorus of frogs and the distant calls of herons, cataloguing the subtle shifts in the swamp's nightly symphony. Each new sound, each returning species is a measure of progress, a testament to the resilience of life. These efforts are not a return to the past, but a forging of new pathways. In the face of rising seas and shifting climates, the Everglades becomes a proving ground for adaptation. Here, the future of conservation is written not in grand gestures, but in the patient observation of change and the careful nurturing of what endures. In the unfolding story of the swamp, every new discovery, every spark of recovery is a promise, whispered on the wind, carried in the water, and rooted in the living earth, that the Everglades will remain, not as a relic, but as a thriving frontier where nature's resilience leads the way.